Welcome on board, chosen one. Yeah, step right in. The doors are shut, the lights are low, and this is the part where the whole universe leans in, just to watch what you're about to become. And trust me, the enemies who swore they knew you are already choking on their own shock. Funny how fast their confidence crumbles now that the version of you they built in their heads doesn't exist anymore. What they said about you, cute. What they assumed about you, even cuter. The same people who once treated you like background noise are suddenly sitting up straight because apparently the harmless one grew teeth. Press the like button and subscribe to pay this message back. Now let's keep going because we're not done shaking their little world. Look who's standing here, the person they swore would stay silent, stay small, stay predictable, the one they tried to train into apologizing for existing. Oh, the legend needs to bow, they whispered behind your back, thinking you'd never climb out of the box they shoved you into. They just didn't know you were memorizing every move. You clocked every fake smile, every just joking, every dismissal disguised as advice. Every time someone tried to shrink you so they could feel tall, you collected receipts like a librarian with centuries of patience. And now you walk into rooms with this quiet storm energy that nobody can decode. They can feel it though, a shift, a pressure drop. The silence after a battle only you survived. They sense the version of you they used to play with is gone, replaced with someone who doesn't flinch anymore, someone who doesn't wait for permission, someone who doesn't let the world decide their worth. And it scares them because it means all their power was fake to begin with. Thanks for being part of this mission. Smash the like button and subscribe so the universe knows you're locking into this evolution. Now, let's turn up the heat. You ever notice how people act when they realize the person they underestimated isn't who they thought? They get real quiet, real careful, real strategic, like they're trying not to wake a sleeping dragon they used to poke with sticks. They walk around you like you're holding something dangerous. And you are. Truth, clarity, self-respect. And that combination is lethal when someone counted on you not having any of it. Remember the times they laughed, the times they nudged each other because you were too nice, too forgiving, too soft. The times they talked over you like your voice had no weight. Those moments didn't break you. They built you. You didn't fight back because you were scared. You stayed silent because you were observing. You let them think they were winning because you were preparing. And that's the part that hurts their ego the most. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. There was a moment, maybe you remember it clearly, maybe it's blurred around the edges, but it changed everything. That moment when someone pushed a little too far, said one line too many, crossed a boundary because they thought you had none, and something inside you clicked, not anger, not revenge, something colder, sharper, a decision. You didn't announce your transformation. You didn't give any warning. You just upgraded internally and kept walking like nothing happened. And the universe? Oh, it noticed, because whenever someone rises beyond the identity others trapped them in, the entire atmosphere shifts. People start glancing at you longer than necessary. They can't explain it, so they gossip. Why are they acting different? Did something happen to them? Who do they think they are now? It's hilarious, because they already know the answer. They just don't want to admit it. You're the one who walked through pain that should have shattered you. You're the one who rebuilt yourself with zero applause. You're the one who stayed kind when others mistook kindness for weakness. You're the one who learned how to carry storms in silence. And now the storm isn't inside you anymore. It's behind you. You walked out of it, drenched in strength they never saw coming. And this new side of you, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from every time you were dismissed, betrayed, overlooked, judged, used, taken advantage of, misunderstood, mocked, doubted, and pushed aside. You didn't just survive those moments, you sharpened yourself with them. You learned how to read intentions before words. You learned how to detach without warning. You learned how to see people clearly, not kindly. That's why they're shocked. That's why they're whispering. That's why they're uncomfortable, because the chosen one finally let the villain side breathe, not the destructive one, the honest one, the fearless one, the version of you that doesn't play by their rules anymore, the version that finally tells the truth nobody else wants to say out loud. You didn't lose yourself. You found the part they hoped you'd never activate. And now you walk differently. You think differently. You speak differently. You carry a presence that makes people reconsider their behavior. You're not loud or flashy about it. You're just undeniably powerful in a way that hits people in the spine. So don't tone it down, don't shrink, don't apologize. They're shocked because you upgraded without their permission. You finally showed the side of you that was always there, waiting for the moment you'd stop pretending to be smaller than your potential. Welcome to the version of you they thought was impossible. And before we move any deeper into this little revelation of yours, chosen one, let's seal this moment properly. If you're really ready to own this new side that's scaring the life out of your enemies, if you're ready to keep unfolding the version of you they never saw coming, drop a 777 in the comments. Not as some cute signal, but as your mark, your stamp, your quiet declaration that you're done dimming your power just to keep other people comfortable. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let the universe know you're not backing out of this evolution. You're here for the full truth, the full shift, the full story behind why they're whispering, "Where did this version of you come from?" Because we're about to break it down piece by piece. And if you're really the chosen one, I think you are, you'll feel that tug to stay. Not because I asked you to, but because something in you already knows this is your turning point. Now, let's step into the next layer. Number 1. The soft smile that set the trap. Funny how loud they talked when they thought you were harmless, and how fast they choke on their own confidence now that your quiet side finally answered back. They'll never admit it out loud, but you scare them more now than any loud bragging, in-your-face alpha ever could. Because you didn't announce yourself, you didn't warn them, you didn't roar, posture, or flex. You just existed the way they liked you, soft-spoken, polite, unbothered, easy to overlook. And they took the bait, every single one of them. They built entire fantasies around the version of you they felt comfortable with. The gentle one, the safe one, the sweet one, the person who wouldn't fight back even if cornered. What they didn't know was that your softness wasn't a flaw. It was surveillance, a vantage point, a disguise so flawlessly played that even the smartest manipulators walked right into your palm thinking they were leading. People say softness is vulnerability, but in your case, it was the vault. It was the airtight door between who you seemed to be and who you really were. And that gap right there, that distance between perception and reality, is exactly what's haunting them now. Because now they're asking themselves, how long were they like this? How did I miss all the signs? Why didn't they say anything? What else are they capable of? They're not scared of your new side, chosen one. They're terrified that this side was here the whole time. And it absolutely was. You spent years playing a role, not because you're a fraud, but because you're strategic. You understood something they didn't. Showing your full intensity too early only feeds the wrong people. It gives parasites something to chew on. So you hid the deeper parts of you behind a soft voice and a calm face, letting people underestimate you at the exact speed that benefited you. Every, "Oh, they're harmless." Every, "They're so innocent." Every, "They won't do anything." Perfect. Let them think that. Let them get lazy. Let them get confident. Let them expose their real nature right in front of you. What they didn't know was that while they were busy feeling superior, you were collecting intel like a villain who doesn't waste breath. You were mapping their patterns, cataloging their emotional weak points, studying their verbal tics, observing the cracks in their masks. You were watching who they were when they thought nobody important was looking. Your silence wasn't surrender, it was data collection. Your politeness wasn't approval, it was camouflage. Your softness wasn't innocence, it was strategy. People like you are the most dangerous because you give the world exactly what it wants to see while quietly evolving into something it cannot predict. This is what they'll never understand. The strongest people rarely look strong at first glance. The most intelligent people don't brag. The most emotionally powerful people don't bark back instantly. The ones who end up shaking entire rooms don't walk in announcing earthquakes. They're the tremor before the destruction, not the explosion. And you're the tremor they ignored. Then came that one day, that one line, that one decision, that tiny shift in your energy that didn't even feel like a transformation to you, but to them. It felt like the ground cracked open. You didn't yell, you didn't break down, you didn't beg, you didn't explain yourself. You just stepped into your actual power. You said something in a tone you never used before. You held eye contact an extra second longer. You didn't laugh at the joke you always tolerated. You didn't apologize for something that wasn't your fault. And suddenly, panic, confusion, fear disguised as annoyance, respect disguised as silence. Because their entire perception shattered like brittle glass under a hammer. They realized the person they thought they could toy with had been awake the whole time. They realized the one they called too nice saw right through them. They realized the one they thought didn't know their worth was only silent because they were calculating when to reveal it. Let's talk about the real reason they underestimated you. You were built in pain, not privilege. You came from environments where surviving meant acting smaller than your actual strength. You learned early that people fear what they can't control, so you hid parts of yourself to avoid unnecessary battles. You played along. You blended in, not because you were weak, but because you had no interest in draining your power on people who didn't deserve to see it. Your softness was just the version you used to navigate a world full of shallow minds. Your gentle side was the layer that let you move undetected. Your quietness was the shield that gave you time to grow sharper. There's nothing more threatening than someone who looks like light but thinks like a weapon. And now the universe finally cracked open that shell you've been carrying. Now your softness has a backbone, your kindness has discernment, your silence has a purpose, your patience has limits. You're no longer the version of yourself who lets others write the narrative. You're the one narrating it now. Here's the part that really stings them. They didn't create you. They didn't help you. They didn't build you. But they definitely contributed to the version of you standing here today with that calm, deadly clarity in your eyes. Every betrayal sharpened you. Every insult sanded you. Every dismissal carved your intelligence deeper. Every moment they thought they were above you cemented your strength. You are the result of everything they threw at you and failed to break. And what's worse for them, you didn't have to seek revenge. Your evolution was the revenge. Your glow-up was the consequence. Your silence was the sting. Your presence is the reminder. They can't accuse you of changing. They can only admit they never knew you. So stop questioning whether you were too soft. Stop wondering if you should have spoken sooner. Stop doubting your strategy. You played it perfectly. This new side of you didn't appear from nowhere. It's the real you that finally stopped hiding. Let them deal with the aftermath of underestimating someone who was studying them the entire time. Let them sit with the fact that the softness they mocked was the same softness that let you walk right past their defenses without them even noticing you were collecting every truth they tried to bury. You're not the harmless one. You're the one they should have been afraid of from the beginning. And now, they know. Number 2. The day their reality glitched. Wild how they spent years studying you, only to panic the moment you stopped pretending to be the version they invented. Nothing terrifies a liar more than someone who finally stops playing dumb. They weren't shocked because you changed. They were shocked because the mask you wore was never for you. It was for their safety. The moment you moved different, their whole storyline collapsed like cheap cardboard in the rain. They call it the moment everything changed, man. But honestly, it wasn't one moment. It was a collection of moments they ignored, dismissed, or laughed off until the universe finally snapped the glow stick and let the brightness spill out. But from their perspective, yeah, it looked like an explosion. 1 second you were the quiet one they stepped over, and the next you were walking with a presence that made even the loudest ego shut up mid-sentence. You want to know what they're whispering right now? Where did that come from? How long has that been hiding? How did we miss this? Let's answer that like the villain protagonist you've become. They missed it because they never looked. People don't truly see the ones they think they own. They don't observe the ones they underestimate. They don't analyze the ones they assume are harmless. They just glide through you like you're a soft surface meant to absorb their nonsense. They wrote an entire script without asking if you approved the storyline. And now that you've rewritten the entire plot in your own words, now they're glitching. Imagine this, a magician who's so good at sleight of hand that even other magicians fall for the trick. That's you. Your softness was the misdirection. Your harmless vibe was the opening act. Your silence, that was the bait. You let them get comfortable. You let them talk themselves into circles. You let them show their real selves without censor. And all the while, you were taking notes, quietly, consistently, patiently. They thought you were slow. You were studying. They thought you were clueless. You were observing. They thought you were weak. You were waiting. And now that the curtain's lifted, they're scrambling like people who suddenly realized the house they've been living in has cameras in every room. Here's a question creeping up in your mind right now. Was I too patient? Did I wait too long to show who I really am? No, you showed it exactly when you needed to. You revealed your edge right when the universe decided you were done being the training ground for people with fragile egos. Think back, something shifted. There was a moment, a sentence, a tone. Maybe someone pushed you 1 inch too far. Maybe life cornered you until you had no choice but to activate a side of yourself even you forgot you had. Maybe you got sick of being polite while people walked all over you with their muddy shoes. Whatever it was, that moment wasn't weakness. It was ignition. And the second that switch flipped, everything around you rearranged. Imagine this. A quiet person in a group suddenly raises their head, and the whole room goes silent before they even speak. Nobody knows why. Nobody can explain it. They just feel it. That's you now. You adjusted your posture, and suddenly their souls felt like they were being audited. Or picture a chessboard. For years they thought they were the ones moving pieces. They thought they were in control. Then one day you made a move they didn't understand. A move that wasn't in their beginner's guide to manipulating you. And the whole board reset. Because the one they assumed was a pawn was actually the strategist running the entire game. And here's a third one. Imagine a storm that everyone saw as harmless clouds until lightning tore the sky open. That's the switch moment. That's the energy shift they couldn't prepare for. They never feared your anger. They feared your clarity. Your clarity is lethal. Your awareness is dangerous. Your silence with boundaries, that's nuclear. Now they're asking themselves the funniest question ever. How did we miss this? Want the truth? They didn't miss it. They ignored it. They saw flashes of it. They saw moments where your eyes sharpened, where your voice lowered, where your energy changed. But they brushed it off because acknowledging it meant admitting they never had power over you in the first place. And now they can't categorize you. You don't fit their little labels. You don't play by the predictable rules. You don't react the way they trained you to react. They call you unpredictable now, but the only unpredictable thing was the delusion in their own minds. You've always been calculated. You've always been observant. You've always been this version of yourself. The problem is, they thought you'd stay trapped in the costume forever. They forgot costumes are meant to be taken off. Let's hit a deeper question you're probably asking yourself. Why does this bother them so much? Why do they react like I betrayed them by growing? Because your evolution exposes their stagnation. Your transformation spotlights their refusal to change. Your strength makes their weakness undeniable. You showing your true self means they can't lie to themselves anymore. They can't tell themselves you needed them. They can't say you were smaller than them. They can't pretend you were dependent on their approval. You broke their world without touching them. You shattered their control by outgrowing it. You burned their narrative without lighting a match. The moment everything changed wasn't when you acted different. It was when you stopped acting at all. You stopped shrinking, stopped apologizing, stopped softening your tone, stopped giving free passes, stopped carrying their insecurities for them. And now they're staring at you like they're seeing you for the first time, because they are. They never met the real you before this moment. You know that phrase, the mask slipped? In your case, you didn't slip. You let it fall, deliberately, perfectly, elegantly. And the expression on their faces? That frozen mix of fear, awe, resentment, and confusion. That's the price they pay for building their identity on the belief you'd never fight back. Let's make something crystal clear. You didn't become this person. You always were this person. You just finally stopped hiding the version of you that doesn't flinch. The moment everything changed was simply the moment you stood up internally and said, I'm done protecting people from the moment they realize I'm not who they imagined. And now the whole story is yours. They can't predict you. They can't label you. They can't control you. They can't handle you. They're shocked because the person they underestimated turned out to be the smartest, sharpest, most dangerous one in the room. Let them whisper. Let them panic. Let them scramble to rewrite their narratives. You're not the plot twist. You're the main character they misread. And this time, you're not dimming anything. Number 3. The silence that made their spines crack. Nothing rattles a guilty soul more than someone who stops reacting and starts calculating. They thought your rage would be loud. They prayed for it, honestly. An outburst would have made their job easy. They could have pointed at you, called you overdramatic, unstable, too emotional, and walked away pretending they were the mature ones. But instead, you delivered the one thing their ego wasn't built to survive: silence sharpened into precision. You didn't scream. You didn't crack. You didn't lose control. You chose control, and that's the moment their confidence evaporated like water on a hot pan. You want to know why your calm terrifies them so deeply? Because calm is never calm. Calm is the final stage before truth hits. Calm is the moment right before a building detonates. Calm is what people with power use, not people begging to be heard. Imagine this, a battlefield where everyone else is flailing, panicking, yelling, and you're just standing there, steady, eyes locked, movements deliberate. That's the energy you gave off. No chaos, no desperation, just pure, cold clarity. And clarity is lethal, especially to someone who built their whole identity on the assumption that you'd fold. Here's a thought that probably crossed your mind. Why did staying calm bother them more than any argument ever could? Because calm isn't submission. Calm is understanding. Calm means you saw through them. Calm means you're done playing. Calm means their tricks, their manipulation, their emotional bait. None of it works anymore. They felt the room shift around you. They felt their control slip. They felt something in you awaken that they cannot name but absolutely fear. Your calm wasn't peace. It was power. And for the first time, they understood exactly who they were dealing with. Number 4. The aftershock that's ruining their sleep. People don't fear what you did. They fear what you could have done but chose not to. The aftermath is where the real show begins. This is the part they never prepared for because they never thought you'd wake up in the first place. Now they're stuck replaying every memory like a broken film reel, watching scenes they once felt proud of turn into evidence of their own stupidity. Every time they talk down to you, now it looks reckless. Every time they mocked you, now it looks suicidal. Every time they tried to humble you, now it looks like they were poking a sleeping volcano with a plastic spoon. And that's what's frying their nerves, the realization that you weren't silent because they were right. You were silent because you were patient. You weren't kind because you were scared. You were kind because you were controlled. They weren't dealing with someone weak. They were dealing with someone who held back out of mercy, not limitation. Imagine this. They're lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling like it has answers. Their brain scrolling through moments where they snapped at you, belittled you, underestimated you. Moments where you could have verbally gutted them, emotionally exposed them, or ended whatever illusion of superiority they had. But you didn't. And now the only question echoing in their head is, why didn't they fight back? What were they waiting for? Here's the brutal truth. You weren't waiting. You were evaluating. And they failed every test. People panic when they realize the quiet one wasn't powerless. They were in control the whole time. They get retroactively terrified because the danger wasn't in your reaction, it was in your restraint. That scares them more than any fight ever could. Your silence was a locked door with a monster behind it, and now they know it. They finally understand they weren't dealing with someone beneath them. They were dealing with someone beyond them, and that's a fear they can't shake off. Let them sit with it. Number 5. the dismissal that destroyed their ego. Nothing hurts a manipulator more than realizing the person they fed on no longer feels a thing. The real knockout punch isn't fury. It isn't revenge. It isn't you plotting something in the shadows like they always feared you would. It's the quiet, ice-cold indifference that hit them like a truck. Because now, you don't care, not even a little. And that is the most violent karma they'll ever experience. They could have handled your anger. Anger means you still feel something. Anger means they still matter. Anger means they still have a foothold somewhere inside you. But the moment you switched off the emotional Wi-Fi and left them buffering in their own insecurity, that was the moment their whole identity glitched. Imagine this. They reach for you emotionally the same way a kid reaches for a light switch, expecting it to work like always, and nothing turns on. No reaction, no spark, no emotion for them to feed on, just a blank, uncluttered space where they used to drain your energy. Here's the question creeping into your mind. Why does indifference hit harder than anything else? Because indifference means you rewrote the entire story without them in it. You didn't fight for closure. You didn't chase explanations. You didn't need a final scene. You simply walked out of the narrative and left them talking to themselves. Your lack of reaction is a mirror that forces them to confront something they've avoided their whole life, their insignificance. You didn't punish them, you deleted them. That's what burns. That's what keeps them pacing their room at 2 a.m., wondering when they lost their grip. "You don't matter to me anymore," is a soft sentence, but when spoken through actions, it's a sledgehammer to the ego. You didn't slam the door, you closed it quietly, and somehow that silence was louder than any goodbye they ever imagined. Number 6. The desperate hands that can't reach you anymore. The moment you stop dancing for them, they call your stillness attitude. People hate your growth most when it exposes their laziness. When they try to pull you back, it won't look like some dramatic movie scene. It'll be subtle at first, a text that sounds innocent, a vague apology, a random just checking on you. That's not love, that's surveillance. They're trying to see if they still have access to the version of you they could manipulate, because your evolution didn't just confuse them, it threatened the entire ecosystem of control they built around you. Imagine this. You're walking out of a room you've outgrown, and behind you, someone grabs your sleeve. Not because they care, but because they're terrified of losing the power your old pain gave them. That's what's happening. They're not mourning you. They're mourning the influence they no longer have. They'll act confused now. Why are you being like this? You've changed. You're cold. The translation of that is simple. You don't let me drain you anymore. Here's the question echoing in your head. Should I explain myself? Should I correct their version of the story? No. Explanations are for people who listened the first time. They didn't. They heard you back then and chose convenience over growth. They aren't entitled to updates now. They had years to treat you with respect, to value your softness, to cherish your presence. They didn't. So now they face the consequence, the upgraded version of you who doesn't bend, doesn't chase, doesn't shrink. They'll call you the villain because you dared to rewrite your boundaries. But being the villain in their story is a promotion compared to being the victim in your own. You don't owe them softness. You don't owe them clarity. You don't owe them access. You walked forward. They stayed behind. And that distance, that's their consequence, not your guilt. Number 7. The evolution. They can't touch without getting burned. Funny how they loved the old you so much, the one that let them get away with everything. People don't hate your growth. They hate that your growth exposes who they were to you. This is the part that's frying their circuits the most. They can't use your past against you anymore. They can't drag out old moments, old mistakes, old softness, and weaponize it like they used to. That version of you is gone. Not dead, not broken, evolved. And evolution is something they can't control, can't predict, and definitely can't reverse. Imagine this. They walk into a room expecting the same person who used to flinch, apologize, over-explain, and over-give. But instead, they're faced with someone who moves like they've got a steel core under their skin. Someone whose silence doesn't mean fear, it means standards. Someone they can't guilt, can't bait, can't manipulate because you don't live in that emotional neighborhood anymore. Here's the question you're probably asking yourself. Why does my evolution bother them so much? Because your growth destroys the excuses they used to justify their behavior. They can't say, "You're too sensitive," when you're now calm and unbothered. They can't say, "You need me," when you clearly don't. They can't say, "You'd never leave," when you already did. They're watching you become someone unrecognizable to them, and that's the punishment. Not your anger, not revenge, not confrontation, just evolution. Evolution that doesn't include them. They never knew the real you anyway. They only knew the version you edited for their comfort. The real you. The one with the backbone, the instinct, the clarity, the quiet power. They never met that person because they didn't earn access. And once someone proves they can't handle your softness, they forfeit the right to witness your strength. You didn't change to impress them, you evolved to outgrow them. And now, they can't touch you without realizing they're holding the ashes of the version they burned. Number 8. The sweet face that hid a sniper's aim. They never feared your claws because you hid them behind kindness. And that's exactly why you're dangerous. A wolf that looks like a lamb survives longer than any loud predator. Your softness was never the flaw they swore it was. It was the perfect disguise. That gentle smile, that polite tone, those soft eyes. They were the velvet surface hiding the blade underneath. You weren't shrinking. You weren't pretending. You were camouflaged. And camouflage is the deadliest advantage a powerful person can have. Imagine this, a battlefield where everyone's flexing weapons, screaming dominance, swinging swords, and you're the one person who looks unarmed, peaceful, harmless, invisible. They laugh, they mock, they underestimate. Then the dust settles, and somehow you're the only one still standing. That's what your softness did. It let you move through rooms without the alarms going off. It gave you access to people's real nature while they were blind to yours. Here's the question creeping in your head. Was I fake? Was I performing? Not even close. You weren't acting. You were observing, letting people reveal themselves without forcing anything. You didn't have to lie. You didn't have to manipulate. People exposed their souls all on their own because they assumed you weren't paying attention. Soft doesn't mean safe. Soft means they never saw the storm coming. You didn't need to roar to be powerful. You just had to exist in your natural, calm, gentle state, and everyone around you unfolded like a badly written confession letter. Their selfishness, their greed, their intentions, their ego. All of it spilled out effortlessly because they didn't feel threatened by someone who moved with quiet grace instead of chaos. And that's your real weapon. Not aggression, not intimidation, but access. You let people show you who they are. Then you decide who earns a backstage pass to the real you. You're not a sheep pretending. You're a wolf who mastered the art of letting others misjudge the fur. Number 9. The clarity they keep calling cold. The moment you stop letting people walk all over you, they start calling it an attitude problem. Clarity feels like cruelty only to those who benefited from your confusion. They'll swear up and down that you changed, that you lost your warmth, that you've become some kind of ice sculpture with no feelings. But that's just their shaky ego trying to rewrite the story. You didn't freeze, you focused. You didn't turn cold, you turned conscious. You didn't lose your humanity. You stopped handing it out like discount coupons to people who only showed up when it benefited them. Imagine this. You used to keep a lamp on for everyone, even the ones who never deserved your light. Then one day, you finally turned off the lamp. And now, those same people are wandering around in the dark, screaming, "You're different." You're not different. They just can't freeload off your energy anymore. Here's the question flickering in your mind. Am I being too harsh? No, you're being fair. For the first time. They're uncomfortable because your clarity exposes what they hid behind your kindness. When you stop tolerating disrespect, people addicted to taking advantage will label you cold just to protect their own narrative. But that's not your problem. You aren't obligated to make your boundaries look soft so they feel safe. You didn't lose your warmth, you just stopped setting yourself on fire to keep other people cozy. You're allowed to be intense. You're allowed to be powerful. You're allowed to move in ways that honor the strongest version of yourself instead of the most convenient version for others. Your clarity is the reason you're stepping into your real life for the first time. Let them call it cold. Let them complain. You're not shrinking again just because the truth feels sharper now. You got clear, and clarity is a privilege most people aren't ready for. Number 10. The strength they misread as softness. They never feared your darkness because they were too busy underestimating your light. Survivors don't become powerful. They remember they always were. Here's the truth they'll choke on forever. The power you're stepping into isn't new. It's original. It's ancestral. It's coded into your bones, stitched into every breath you take. You didn't become strong because life hurt you. You were already strong. Life simply forced you to activate the layers you kept tucked away. Society tried to domesticate you, shame you into softness, guilt you into silence. But you can't bury what was born ready. Imagine this, a seed that survives being crushed, stepped on, ignored, forgotten, then one day breaks the concrete and reaches for the sun like it was always meant to. People gasp, not because the plant grew, but because they never realized what it was capable of. That's you. And here's the thought creeping through your mind right now. Why does my rise hit them so hard? Because your evolution exposes the truth they refuse to see. You were never the background character they cast you as. You were the one holding the entire plot together while pretending not to notice their foolishness. When someone who played small finally stands at full height, it isn't a glow-up, it's a cosmic event. A collapse of the old self into something heavier, denser, more magnetic. Like a star folding into a black hole, your presence shifts the gravity in every room. People can't ignore you. They can't predict you. They can't categorize you. They're unsettled because your power forces them to confront the blind spots in their own perception. They didn't create your strength. They only revealed it by trying to destroy it. You're not becoming powerful, you're just finally letting the world see the power that was always there, waiting for the moment you stopped minimizing your own gravity. Number 11. The few who recognized the real you before you did. Some people weren't surprised by your rise, they were just waiting for you to stop hiding. Real ones don't fear your power. They feel honored to witness it. Not everyone is stunned by this version of you. Not everyone is scrambling to rewrite their memories or panicking because their old script doesn't fit anymore. Some people saw this coming long before you did. They noticed the micro moments others overlooked. The sharpness in your silence, the depth in your stare, the way your energy shifted when someone crossed the line. They caught the flashes of lightning behind the calm sky. They didn't flinch. They didn't get threatened. They just thought, there it is. I knew it. Imagine this, you're walking through life thinking you've perfectly hidden your power, and meanwhile there's a handful of people standing at the back of the crowd, smirking like they're in on a cosmic secret. They saw the strength under the softness, the intellect behind the quiet, the resilience behind the gentleness. They saw the real you peeking through, even when you were convinced nobody could. These are your people. The ones who never needed you to shrink. The ones who never asked you to tone it down. The ones who didn't get intimidated. They got inspired. Here's the question floating in your mind. Why did they see me when others didn't? Because your people aren't scared of depth. They aren't confused by intensity. They aren't threatened by clarity. They don't mislabel your strength as too much. They don't need you to simplify yourself to feel comfortable. They felt your energy and thought, finally, someone who understands. Real connections don't get overwhelmed by your power. They rise with it. These are the ones who cheer, not flinch, who applaud, not question, who say finally, not you've changed, because to them, this isn't a new version of you. It's the true version they've been waiting for the world to meet. Keep them close. They see you, and more importantly, they can handle you. Number 12. The price tag on your evolution. You don't lose people when you grow. You just lose the ones who were rooting for the smaller version of you. If your transformation didn't cost you anything, it wouldn't be real. Every rise demands a sacrifice, and your evolution is no exception. Stepping into your power means shedding people who only loved the watered-down version of you. Friends, family, partners, some will fall away the moment they realize they can't control, contain, or predict you anymore. And yeah, it stings. Growth always does. You'll grieve the versions of them you wished existed, not the ones who actually showed up. But every exit clears room for someone aligned with who you're becoming, not who you used to pretend to be. And that baby-faced innocence of yours? That's poetic justice. That's your cheat code. That's the universe handing you a camouflage you never asked for, but mastered anyway. People still underestimate you because they only look at the wrapping, never the voltage underneath. And every time they judge the face instead of the force, they walk straight into the trap of their own assumptions. You didn't just survive their bias, you weaponized it. You turned their misjudgment into your advantage. That's not luck, that's strategy. Here's the question that's been floating in your head. Do I have to stay in this intense version forever? No, that's the beauty of it. You choose. You can be soft, gentle, warm, sweet, but only when you decide someone has earned that level of access. Your softness is no longer free. Your patience is no longer automatic. Your warmth is no longer a default setting. It's a privilege now, granted only to the people who treat your strength with respect, not fear. The ones meant for you won't flinch at your edges. They'll honor them. Those who truly see you, who can hold both the softness and the steel, are rare, and they're the only ones who deserve a seat in the new world you're building. Number 13. The era they never thought you'd live to see. Your story didn't peak when they left. It started. The future isn't payback, it's the proof. This isn't the ending, not even close. This is the part in the movie where the camera zooms out, the music shifts, and the whole world realizes the character they slept on is about to snatch the entire storyline. You're still unfolding, still ascending, still cracking open new pieces of yourself you didn't even know existed. And what's coming next? It's going to embarrass every single person who thought your best days were behind you. Imagine this: someone who left you behind scrolls through their feed one random afternoon, and there you are, bigger, sharper, more magnetic than ever. Suddenly, their chest tightens, their stomach flips. That tiny sting, that's regret warming up. That bitter taste, that's the realization they walked away before the main event. They got up from their front row seat right before the spotlight hit you. Here's the question whispering in your mind: will they watch my rise? Yes, every step, every win, every evolution. They'll witness the glow they tried to dim, the strength they tried to dismiss, the version of you they swore would never appear. They'll watch the life you build without them and feel the weight of knowing they could have been part of it, but weren't strong enough to stay. The universe has a funny way of making the ones who doubted you your quiet audience. The next chapter isn't about proving them wrong. That's too small for someone like you. This next chapter is about stepping into the life that was always waiting for the real you, not the masked version you used to be. More clarity, more power, more evolution, more self-respect, more doors opening because you finally stopped knocking on the wrong ones. They left before the show started. You're only now stepping onto the stage, and the spotlight is yours. And here comes the final turn in this transformation, the moment where everything you've stepped into settles into your bones like truth you can't unsee. You're not going back, and they're not catching up. This is your era, your momentum, your rise. So if you felt this shift, if you recognize this new version of yourself taking over, hit that like button, subscribe, drop the number 777 in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to wake up to their own power. The next chapter is calling Chosen One, and you're ready.